So this will be recorded for later viewing, and we will also put the PowerPoint document in the chat so that you can download that as well for later use if you like. So you already know who I am, but my name's Margaret, and I have all my library colleagues, or almost all my library colleagues here with Patrick and Kate and Olivia. And thank you so much, Rosemary, for being the one and only special person to show up to this webinar. So let me begin the PowerPoint. So this is called Introduction to Interlibrary Loan, Borrowing Materials for Research and Learning. So if we don't have an item, we can always ask for a loan. So the learning objective for today's webinar is to gain familiarity with using the library's ILL services. So we're going to learn what interlibrary loan is, or ILL for short, what kind of materials can be requested, and how to search and request materials for ILLs. So what is ILL? Interlibrary loan is the process in which a library requests materials from other libraries as well as supply materials. And so why do we need them? Well, if we do not have a certain item in our library, we can try to request an item from a different library who may have that. So what type of materials can you request? You can request books, journal articles, music scores, and in some rare cases, media such as DVDs or CDs, but it's really up to the lending library to figure out if they want to lend that to us or not. So there are different ways to request materials. One way is through FormStack, which we have a link on our ILL website to click that, and it's just a form you fill out, and we'll go through that as an example, but it's super easy, and that's one way to submit a request. Another way is through WorldCat, and WorldCat is a place where we can search for items from different libraries all in one place. And we also have a link on our website as well for that. And when in doubt, if you don't want to do that, feel free to email me any type of requests you like. So let's do an example of a request. So I'm going to click the link to our ILL website. And if you ever get confused or you want a different way to get to this website, you can always Google UMCSA Library. Click on the Library Learning Commons, and this is our library main website. And if you scroll down for a little bit, at the top left box that says Borrow and Request Materials, you click on that. And then on the left, there's some tabs, and the second to last one is Interlibrary Loan, and you click on that, and there you go. And this website not only has direct links for the forums, but it also has question and answers and my information as well. So feel free to peruse that if you'd like. So one of the examples we'll start off with is using the FormStack form, which is the top link. And just recently, we had a professor request a book called Quiet. So we're going to pretend like we're requesting this book. So you have an option of different types of material types, and you hit next, and then you type in the information, and you just need to type in the information that has an asterisk next to it. So the author of Quiet is Susan Cain, and then you type in the title, Quiet. And for the publisher, if you're unsure of what the publisher is, you can just enter 2 question marks. And the date item needed by, this is very important because we can figure out if we can get certain items within a certain time frame. Usually we would like up to 2 weeks notice if an item is needed, but because of the COVID situation, it may take longer to get information. So you can just put any type of date. So let's say you would like this book by August 1st. And the maximum cost. We try very hard to get items for free. We lend out items for free, but there are a few libraries that do charge. And so if you really need an item and a library is charging, you can put how much you're willing to pay for an item. But again, we try to get all the items, we try to request items for free as much as we can. So feel free to just put 0, and then you don't have to fill out the other information if you don't want to, and you hit next, and then you just enter your name and email address, and then this form, when you submit the form, gets sent directly to me, and so I can process that request. But let's say if you want to not use the form stack, but use the WorldCat, we can try doing that as well. So if you click on it, it may ask for you to enter your login information, which is just your email address, and then the email password that you normally use. I would highly recommend using advanced search so that you can put the title and author in separate places. So we're going to use the same book, Quiet. So, and the longer, it has a much longer title, but for the most part, it's just Quiet, and it's by Susan Cain. And the nice thing about WorldCat is it shows you all kinds of different items, but since we're looking for a physical book, we don't want the audiobook or any other type of book. We'll use the first example, but if you want to narrow your selection even more, you can go to the left and you can narrow it down from there. So I'm going to click on the first title. And the nice thing about WorldCat is if you scroll down, it has a list of libraries that own this book. So what's really nice is most of them are local, which means we might be able to get the item in a more timely manner. So if you would like this item, all you have to do is hit request item button, and it'll bring you to a form. And you just enter the information that's highlighted in red. And let's say you want it at the end of July, just put in your name. And then when you hit submit, this item will be requested and it will be sent straight to me as well. So it's really fast, and I try to process the requests as soon as I get them, but we can discuss that later. So let me go back to the PowerPoint. So how long does it normally take? So when you submit those forms, or if you send the request to me by email, I try to process those requests within 24 hours during the work week. And what I do is, how I process them is I create a list of libraries that have those items. And so the library that's first on the list, if they are unable to provide that item, it goes to the second library on the list, and so on. So that might factor into how long it takes for us to receive items. So for books and music scores, physical books and music scores, the process could take up to 2 weeks to receive the item, but that is, sometimes it can take only a couple days. It just depends on how close the library is, how fast they are at processing the items, and even like what type of ways they use to send it through the mail. Some use FedEx or UPS, others use media mail. So it all depends. But we say it's usually takes up to 2 weeks. For articles, the process of receiving those items could take up to 4 days. 4 days is actually at most. Usually it might take a couple hours because since we're not actually sending it through the mail, it's all through some software that we use. It could take up to 2 days, but 4 days is the most it would take. But because of the COVID situation, many libraries are limiting their ILL services. So that definitely impacts our ability to receive items. So some libraries are not even lending out items. So that may factor into if we can get certain items or not. So that is one thing to be aware of. Here are some useful links to some interlibrary loan information, as well as information about our library. And again, this PowerPoint will be sent through the chat box, so you're more than welcome to download this. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me about anything. I'm more than happy to assist you in getting whatever you need. And don't forget our upcoming webinars. Next week, Kim will be talking about ebooks, and Kate, the week after that, will be discussing archives. So, and these silly photo stock images are courtesy of Canva. So, are there any questions?
Yes.
All right.
Anybody else? Yes. Getting back to the COVID issue,
Mm-hmm.
in the event that, like what happened in the spring, everybody went online, would Interlibrary Loan be still available, or would it just end?
It will still be available if you need certain journal articles. Mm-hmm. That, or sometimes some places, if you needed a certain chapter from a book, libraries could scan it and send it. Yeah, it really depended on the library and what they were willing to lend out. But for the most part, yeah, physical lending stopped, mm-hmm. and it was more electronic journals and stuff.
Right. So even though the library, as it was closed, if you ask for an article, one can still get an article?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Other question, what about scripts? Can you do interlibrary loan on scripts?
Yes. So we've done many of that with plays and scripts. And Wake Forest has done a great job of lending a lot of scripts to us. And it's really great because they're really close by, mm-hmm. so we can get them in a timely manner. And as of now, or as of a week or two ago, Wake Forest is lending out items. So that's been very helpful. We've had a couple of requests come in for that. Us as a library and other UNC institutions, the plan is for right now to start lending out items July 22nd. But some have already begun their opening up their ILL services. ECU, they're one of the libraries that love to process ILLs and send it out in a very fast manner. So they're open for ILL business, and I think there might be other handful of UNC schools, but other libraries are slowly opening up their ILL services.
One thing, if I can jump in, one thing I'll add that's a little bit more useful in a non-COVID year, but still useful for you to know, is that as a UNCSA employee, you do have the option to set up accounts at any of the Triad area libraries. So you can go to Wake and get your own library card at Wake so that you can just go peruse their sections,
Mhm.
their collections, and check it out on campus there, which can be really useful if you are in a research area where they have a really sophisticated collection and we don't so much. A lot of our, liberal arts areas really need to be beefed up, and Wake has a much better collection than we do in some areas. So if you are interested in some of that, then UNCG, Wake, Winston-Salem State, like those are all very close. And especially if you need a book like really quick,
Mhm.
as long as the library would be open, sometimes the fastest option is for you to drive to Wake and pick it up yourself.
Okay, thanks. It's great to know that.
Mhm.
I kind of winced at the when I got to the maximum costs and about payment, because I've never had to do that before in Interlibrary Loan. The library always picks up if there's something, the library always picks up. But then again, in terms of the money, because I went to UVA, so
Yeah.
they had their own stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah, so we normally never charge, but there have been some occasions, I would say once or twice a year, where there's that one item a faculty member really, really needs, and it might cost $5. But we have not come across having anyone to pay in the past 2 years I'm aware of where someone had to pay for interlibrary loans. So we try to get everything for free as much as we can. But sometimes there is that possibility where you need that one item. But yeah, for the most part, 99.99% of the time, it's free.
Okay, great. Because I was thinking about in terms of education, there should be that that open, kind of like the open access kind of thing where, where you share. One of the things, what is the, or with the school designated, what is the return, the due date, the return date? What is usually the average time that you can hold on to?
It does
book, for
depend.
example?
It does depend on the school.
Okay.
What I try to do is if it's due in the next 2 weeks after we receive it, that's kind of not a lot of time. So what I can do is I can request renewals through the software I use and I can ask the different libraries to extend it. But sometimes, usually libraries, it'll be between 4 weeks to 2 months or even longer. It just depends on the library who's lending it out to us. But I can always request renewals. And sometimes what happens if a library that lent us an item wants it back and you still need it, I can go to another library and get it from another library to make sure that you can still have that item. And then still I can, because some libraries recall items. So if that happens, I still try to get the item that you need.
Okay, great, thanks.
A note about that form too. Sorry, Cliff.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say that was my question. So thank you, Rosemary.
A note about filling that ILL form out is that, even though there are those asterisks and it says like, fill out this information, there's like a human on the other end of that. It doesn't go into a software system. It goes to Margaret. So if you want to write IDK, I don't know, on any of those fields, she'll be able to either email you to ask for more specifics or like dig into it on her own. So if there's anything on there, because I remember the first time I filled out our particular form here, I was like, cost? I don't know, nothing. I don't know when I need this by. So, feel free to, fill that in loosely. It doesn't have to be in any specific format or anything.
And for articles and stuff, there's a couple of more information to fill out in the form, but still, like, you don't have to, if you, in your research, you come across a journal article that's cited, you can just copy and paste that information and I'm more than happy to investigate about that article. But sometimes the information that's listed on the form can be overwhelming, but as long as the title and author are there, we're good to go. So
Is there any copyright issues, given that if we did a loan from another institution and we got it and we made copies of our own, is there any copyright issues, given that the book is not ours or the article is not ours?
So with copyright for articles, there's definitely what people in the ILL community call the rule of 5. So one person cannot request up to 5 articles from one journal that were published within the last 5 years. As for books, that is a tricky subject. Kim, do you want to add some?
I think a good way of looking at that and thinking about that is the same as if you checked out a book from our collection. As an educator, if you scan some of those pages and uploaded them to Canvas, no one's going to come after you. But it's not something that, there's a strict necessarily green light for, but it is like extraordinarily commonplace. So because it's a print item and the print item is moving around. Kate, you know more about copyright than I do. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's exactly the same as if you're basically with ILL checking out a book from another library and just going through this system through our lovely Margaret. But similarly, as you would if you, like Kim had mentioned, got a Wake Forest library card and checked out for them. So all of the copyright stuff that doesn't change depending on where you got the material. It just depends on how you're using it, and how that material and what you're using it for. So all those fair use kind of guidelines apply regardless of where the material was checked out from.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I have one question. Now that we are so quickly moving to, having the library be completely online, is there a system for borrowing electronic materials like ebooks?
That is a very good question. I have dabbled into that. It really does depend on the library that we are requesting it from. And as of during the spring, most libraries did not lend ebooks. Normally, majority of libraries do not lend out ebooks, but since it was COVID situation, I thought some might be more lenient, but they were not. But sometimes there's a happy coincidence where someone requests an item and we actually have that in our catalog and a database electronically, which is great. And if we're unable to get something, we can always try to get it electronically or request it in some other way, either purchasing it for the library or getting it electronically. So there are lots of options.
Good.
That's a very good question.
Thank you. And since we're a small group, if I could just say something, just a shout out to Patrick to thank him. This year is the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, and the lighting department within D&P is doing a major project around the 19th Amendment passage. And Patrick acquired a movie for us so that I could share it out with our students. And since the library now owns it, I urge everyone to watch it. It's a really interesting movie called Iron Jawed Angels, and it's now owned by the UNCSA library. So thank you, Patrick.
Well, thank you very much for that. We're happy to help any way we can.
Yeah.
It's very nice. It's nice to get good feedback. Thanks.
I'm just curious in terms of the other way. Have there been, in terms of interlibrary loan exchanges from UVA, like people doing interlibrary loan, do you get a lot of that?
Through UVA.
UNCSA, sorry.
Oh, UNCSA.
Yeah, I just did a bio for the workshop that I'm in, so I had to talk about myself, so that's still in my head. Sorry. Yeah.
So yes. Let me see if I understand your question. If you're wondering if us, the UNCSA library, lends out to other people?
Yeah,
Or
like how much do you get people asking for interlibrary loan on our end?
so we actually do get a lot of requests from other libraries, especially with their music collection. Sometimes we have certain editions of music that can't be found anywhere else. Or we get a lot of definitely requests for art books for sure, and different types of journal requests. So we do get quite a lot, but due to some budgetary reasons, we don't lend out as much as we used to. So we have to, well, I have to weigh, is it worth sending this rare music edition to New Mexico as opposed to UNCG?
Mhm.
But I have worked with a variety of libraries, so we have a good working relationship. So the University of Louisville, we have they send us some lots of rare stuff, and so we try to send to them as much as we can. So, but definitely locally, we definitely send out lots of items locally, because it does cost a lot of money to send out to Alaska,
Yeah.
and back, and we may not get the item back, unfortunately. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
we have to weigh some options. So.
Right. You mentioned rare items. Does that also include interlibrary loan from the Cates department, from the archives? Or,
Yeah.
no?
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
So that's standard for all archives. Some archives programs at other universities will loan out materials like for exhibits, but that's a very complicated, like a totally different and much more complicated process that requires insurance estimates and special shipping and all of this. And that's not something that I'm really equipped to do at this point. So no, I unfortunately, we really don't even let archives materials out of the building with, well, yeah, not at all at this point, basically. That said, I'm more than happy to chat with you if there's anything that you want reproduced for a class that you'd like to show. That's something we can certainly talk about doing. Again, it takes a little bit of legwork. Right now, it's just me on staff. We had a part-time assistant who's no longer on staff at this point. So that takes a little bit longer, just again, because our materials are like our library materials in that they are paper documents and books and files and things, but unlike them in as much as they are unique and not cataloged in the same way that library items are. But we're still very much able to make them available for reproduction for your use or for use by other people off campus. So I do get those requests as well.
Okay, thanks. A general
Absolutely.
question in terms of the library and the COVID-19 and the plans that are put in place to, still maintain distances and so on. Do you know or have any idea how coming back in the fall, if we get back in the fall, how that will work for example, for our students, for us to tell the students to go to the library, go to the archive, and do an assignment and do some work?
So as of right now, our plans are to be open in the fall for faculty and staff and students. And some of the measures we will have in place are, I believe we might have a sneeze guard at some of the desks, and there might be a self-checkout station, but we will still be there. We will still be available for students or faculty and staff for any type of research needs. There might be some tape on the floor saying 6 feet distance sort of thing, but it's pretty much same old, except for face masks and sneeze guards and 6 feet tape.
We're also going to be moving furniture around so that
that's right.
Things
yes.
are further spread out, and a lot of the classroom and meeting spaces that are smaller are going to remain closed. But we are planning to be open Depending on, still up in the air are little details like where copiers will be, if we want them all in the same place or if we're going to pull them out in the open. But we do plan to be open.
Yeah, because I was thinking about the numbers as well, if they're going to be, you know, only a certain amount coming. And again, I was thinking about the archive because that's a small space as well. Like in terms of, so if I have 15 to 20 something students, you know, they have an assignment in terms of not all can go there, but at the same time, you still have to have a due date, right? A deadline date for the particular
Sure.
assignment. And in terms of how to navigate that as well. And that's something I'm thinking, you know, for all of my classes, because I do have assignments where they're going to required, hopefully go into the library or not. It may have to be, you know, push come to shove, everything would have to be online where they can stay in their rooms and access stuff online.
Right. In terms of the archives, again, that would be an opportunity that I'd say, because you've obviously been many times to the archives research room,
Yeah.
and there's just really no, that's one of the rooms, like as Kim mentioned, that we won't be making available for groups. And so that would be a great opportunity though for something to be reproduced for you to use. And I'll be going over more of the archives material that's available remotely in a couple of weeks. But I think the plan for the archives is that we'll be open for in-person research only by advanced appointment, just for single person use. So we'll make that work in that way. Yeah, certainly we're all kind of trying to make as much available as possible, as easily as possible, as safely as possible.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
you know,
yeah, thanks. Yeah, because with the interlibrary loan, because I know with the, like specifically for the first year seminar, we always do a library learning journal for them to get, you know, acclimated to the library, how it's working, and then they have to do research. So in terms of, hopefully in terms of keeping interlibrary loan in my mind, because we know, you know, and the syllabus is like midway in the semester or so on, that if anyone, I think I will put that out, if there's anything that comes up, if they need, if the library doesn't have it and they need an interlibrary loan, to try to get that as quickly as possible so that the student can get the information that they need.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Yeah, we're always open, not only to faculty and staff, but for students as well. There have been many students who have used the ILL resources to help with their research or school needs.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to have to give up the research because of the situation. You know, that's something vital that they all need, even in their art. So, yeah. But thank you for the great work you're doing and have done. Thank you so very much.
Well, thank you guys for attending this webinar, and thank you for doing all that you do. I know this is not a fun time, but we're all in it together, and yeah, it should be very interesting fall semester. So we'll see.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good to see you,
Good to
Cliff.
see your faces.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.